The objective of this meeting is to try to open a dialogue with European representatives, NGOs, etc., on the best ways to promote harmonious relationship between European communities and their Islamic components. And when I say Islamic, I don't mean it in the sense of religion in particular, but just create a path for harmonious relations between Muslims, whether they are practicing Muslims or not, whether they are Shia or Sunni, it doesn't matter. Between all those Muslims, and there are nearly 50 million of them between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. And so that in the present context, when you have a lot of elections and where populist parties are trying to make Islam an issue, to try and say that these people are part of the society, that citizenship is not incompatible with diversity, and that if you combine citizenship and diversity, then you get progress, which is in the interest of everybody.
Okay, the next question is there a media bias manipulation regarding Islam?
Yes, there is a kind of a phobic language which has developed, which conveys a kind of ready-to-wear ideology of Islamophobia. When people talk about Islamic violence or Islamic terrorism, one wonders why they don't call a spade a spade. Terrorists are terrorists. They carry out crimes, but terrorists have existed all over the world. When the Nazis carried out their crimes as Nazis, and they had on their belts an inscription saying God is with us, we didn't say these are the Christian crusaders fighting for God. Why do they say that those terrorists who claim to be fighting for Allah have anything to do with Islam? They are just using Islam to give themselves some legitimacy. And when the Western media say that they are Islamic militants, then they convey to them that very legitimacy that these people are trying to obtain. Then how can you be surprised when young people in Europe feel attracted by those Islamic militants? They believe what the media say. They're militants, good, let's fight for a cause. And therefore the media are providing free publicity for these people. Why don't we just say they are terrorists? They are condemned by all religions. When they go into a mosque and kill people at the Friday prayers during Ramadan, who could ever claim, who could in his senses claim that these people have anything to do with any religion? So this phobic language gives you a ready-to-wear approach to Islamophobia. We talk about jihad. Jihad, that sounds like an Arabic word. Oh, so these terrorists are jihadis. Oh, it means that they're carrying out their faith, fighting for their faith. They're not, man, nothing to do with jihad. Why do you call these crimes, you call them jihad? When you have the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda, they call themselves at the service of the Lord. They kill and maim children. Nobody says they are Christian fighters or crusaders. Why do you say that about these thugs that are in the Middle East? The reason you could ask, why do you have these thugs in the Middle East? Why is it that they all come from that region? The answer is simple. This region has been under attack, under brutal invasions. Iraq, look at Iraq and the amount, the 600,000 Iraqis who were killed, not to talk about all those that were excluded from any public service because they worked with Saddam Hussein. you've created such an accumulation of pain, of frustration through these brutal invasions that society has broken down. Its mechanisms for conflict resolution have broken down. And there's a vacuum, and this vacuum is being occupied by terrorist groups. And what we want to do now is to see if we can look at the whole chain of violence and try to find a chain of peace instead. In the case of Europe, social harmony starts at school. My idea, my favorite idea would be that in Islamic schools in France or in Europe, teachers could be seconded every month to give an hour lesson in state schools or Catholic schools, and that teachers of catechism from Catholic schools could go and teach young Muslims about the Christian faith, so that people realize that Islam and Christianity converge. They converge because, as the Emir Abdul Qadir had said, the founder of contemporary Algeria, who fought the French for 17 years, the French invasion from 1830 to 1847, he said that our religions have the same basic prescriptions: to adore God and to be compassionate with his creatures. And if young Muslims and Christians could understand that it's only their religion is just a difference in packaging, as it were, and because God speaks to every community in a language that they can understand. But the objective is the achievement of these two overall goals. I think this would be one thing. A second thing, we have to see if we could try to unpack those ready-made Islamophobic concepts, like calling terrorist jihad, thinking that fatwas would be just condemnation to death when it has most of the time nothing to do with it, to consider call a simple headscarf a veil. All these concepts that are used on a daily basis bring the discussion about religion on just articles of dress. There's surely something much more spiritual about religions that we could discuss together, and that would be beneficial, rather than seeing what is the color of the scarf of the person that's wearing it, or remembering when you condemn the person wearing a scarf or even a hijab, that if you look at the Virgin Mary in any church in Europe, you will see that she wears a hijab as well, and nobody has tried to undress the statues of the Virgin Mary in the churches. So let us get back to basics. Look at the spiritual aspect of our religions, and indeed exchange views on that. That would be profitable for everybody. And ultimately, let us think of we talk about this as the era of enlightenment. Voltaire, an outstanding representative of the era of enlightenment, said, when he was talking about freedom of expression, he said, "I don't like what you say, and I disagree, but I will fight to death so that you can defend your right to say it." And I would paraphrase him and say, if Voltaire was alive today, he would say, "I don't like what you wear, but I would fight to death so that you can keep the right to dress the way you want."